everybody, welcome to another How To Monday. Today we're going to talk about knitting in the round in a small circumference, like for socks or for gloves, the top of a hat, anything where it doesn't fit on one larger circular needle. We're going to talk about double pointed needles, knitting in the round on two circulars and on one circular in the magic loop method, which is my personal favorite, and I will tell you why later. You'll get a little behind the scenes sneak peek into all my disorganized knitting world, and I encourage you to not use me as an example because I have a problem. We'll see why later. But I hope this video is helpful for everybody. If you have any ideas for future How To Monday videos, please leave a comment below and I will try to get to it as soon as I can. And I think that's it, so let's jump into everything. Okay, to begin we're going to talk about knitting in the round using double pointed needles, and as the name suggests, it's knitting needles that have a point on either end. So as you can see here, I've been working on this tube. This could be a sock, it could be a glove, a mitten, anything that's a small circumference that doesn't fit around a normal circular needle. And as you can see, my stitches are divided onto 3 needles. For all of my examples today I have 30 stitches, so for this one I have 10 on each needle. And I'm going to knit with a 4th needle. Usually double pointed needle sets come with 5 in a package. You can divide your stitches over 4 needles and knit with the 5th one, but I prefer to divide them onto 3 needles, 1, 2, 3, and knit with the 4th one, and then I save the 5th one in case I lose one. So to begin, we can see that our yarn is coming off of this needle here. This was the last needle that was knitted, and the one to the left of it is the one that is going to be knitted next. So we're knitting each needle in order. So yarn's coming off of this one on the right. We're going to take our extra needle, our empty one, insert it into the first stitch on the next needle, knit the first stitch, and then just knit across the whole needle. So what we're doing is we're basically replacing the needle with the stitches on it with the empty needle that we had. And when we get to the end of the needle, the last stitch, we'll have a spare needle again. So we're going to turn our work to the next needle. The yarn's coming off of this one that we just knit, so this is the next one in the sequence. I'm going to use my empty needle to knit across this in the same way as we did the one before it. When we get to the last stitch, we're going to have our empty needle again, rotate the work, so we are ready to knit this next needle. Yarn's coming off the needle on the right, and we're going to just continue the same way. So each time you're replacing one of the needles, the next needle in the sequence with all your stitches on it ready to be knit, with the empty needle. So we're going to replace this needle with this one, then this one will be empty, then we'll turn and do the same thing all the way around, knitting around 1, 2, 3 needles. And each time we knit 1, 2, 3 needles, we've completed one round. So there's our tube, as you can see. And next we're going to talk about knitting in the round on 2 circulars. Okay, so this is knitting in the round on 2 circulars. I have the same 30 stitches as before. This time my stitches are divided onto 2 needles, and I have 15 stitches on each. And it's similar to the double pointed needles in that we're dividing them onto different needles, but in this one you can see the yarn is coming off of this back needle. This was the last one that was knit, so we're ready to knit this one in the front that doesn't have any yarn attached to it. So we're going to slide the stitches up to the needle tip like that and find the other end of this needle. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm using one wooden needle and one metal needle. So we're going to find the other end of our wooden needle, and we're going to let the metal one hang out for now. And we're going to use the other tip to knit across these stitches. Just knit straight across. When we get to the end, we're going to knit our last stitch. We're going to let this needle come out, pull the needle so that your stitches are hanging out in the middle of the cable, turn our work around, and do the same thing with the next needle. So now we're on our metal needle. We're going to slide our stitches up to the knitting tip, find the other end of our needle, which in this case is the metal one, and knit straight across. And then there's the last stitch of our needle. Gonna slide our stitches to the middle of the cable, and that's it. So you're only working on one circular at a time, and you have to make sure that you remember to work with the right end of the needle. Like I said, for this tutorial I'm using one bamboo needle and one metal needle. If this were something I were knitting, like a sock or something, where I was concerned about gauge, I would use two needles that were made of the same material. Just because your knitting can be a little bit different on a wood needle or a plastic needle or a metal needle, it's just best for the sake of your gauge to stick with the same material. So for the next, we're going to talk about the magic loop, which is my favorite. So this method is a little bit different because we have one long circular needle here, as you can see, and our stitches are divided up in half. Again, I have 30 stitches, I have 15 on either side, but our needle is connected. So it's just one long needle. This is a 40-inch needle. You can knit magic loop on as small as about a 32-inch, but I wouldn't go any smaller. And I wouldn't go much larger than a 40-inch, just because that's a little bit too much extra cable hanging out. So this one is very similar to the two circular method. We're going to slide our stitches up. You can see that our yarn is coming off the back. We're going to have a front needle and a back needle. Our yarn is coming off of this back needle. We're going to slide our stitches up to the front needle. So we have this long cord, this long bend. We're going to take the other needle tip and pull out some slack and bring it to the front needle. So our stitches are hanging out in the back, and we've got our extra cable hanging out on either side. And then I'm just going to knit across this needle with the other needle tip. So here's the last stitch of our needle, and now we're going to have to do a little bit of rearranging. So we're going to flip our work around. I'm going to pull on the cable on the left to bring the needle tip up to the work. Pull the back needle tip out. Slide our stitches up to the tip on the top on the front needle. Pull the back needle and bring it around. And then we're going to just knit across these the same way as before. So again, I've got my extra cable hanging out on either side. Our stitches in the back are hanging out, and we're only using as much of the needle as we need to make up the circumference. So this is only 60 stitches, so it's 30 stitches. So it's pretty small circumference. But if you had a whole hat on here, it would fill up more of the needle. Which is why I like magic loop, because you can cast on for a hat at the bottom and decrease all the way to the top without having to switch to double pointed needles. And there's also another reason why I like the magic loop method, which I will show you once I finish this row. So the last stitch, we're going to flip our work around, pull the cable up so that our needle tip is hanging out near the stitches, pull this one out, and you just continue in the same way, knitting across the front needle, turning it around, rearranging your cable, knitting across the back needle. And once you get used to this method, it can go pretty fast too. And this is my favorite method. So, this is the other reason why I like the magic loop method. This is my knitting needle box. I have most of all my knitting needles in here, not including all my interchangeable needles because those are somewhere else. And this isn't even all of my needles. This is when I find spare ones, I throw them in here. So we're going to open it up. Dun, 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 dun. And look at the madness in here. I have straight needles. These are big, long, old metal ones. I have wooden straight needles. I have circular needles in every size and shape you could ever want. Like, this is ridiculous. They're all jumbled and tangled up in each other. If I were a good knitter, I would keep them in the packaging that they came with. This is kind of an anomaly that this needle is still in its packaging. I don't know why that is. This is a 36" too, which I would use for magic loop for socks, so it's good to have that. I have bobbins for my spinning wheel in here. I have more bobbins. There's a ruler down there. A hand spindle for hand spinning. A calculator, just in case you need to calculate something. So this is why I like the magic loop method so much, is because I don't want to have to dig through this box and find double pointed needles that are all the same size, or find 2 circular needles that are the same size, because I could be here forever. Because look at all these circular needles. So all I have to do is find one long circular needle to knit in the round, rather than having to find extra double pointeds or whatever that are all the same size. So this is my encouragement to you not to organize your needles this way, because this is ridiculous. But I hope this video was helpful in understanding knitting in the round with either double pointed needles, with 2 circular needles, or with the magic loop, because I know some of those can be a little bit mysterious. And I encourage you to try all of the different methods, because you'll find which one works best for you. Just because I'm like magic loop doesn't mean that everybody else will. Some people love knitting with double pointed needles, but that's it for today. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I inspired you to organize your needles. I kind of inspired myself to organize. So I hope you all have a good day. Bye.